Hi, filmmakers. Jason Brubaker here with Filmmaking Stuff. Thanks a lot for stopping by and tuning in. Today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Peter Broderick. And for those of you who are new to filmmaking, you need to know this guy. And for those of you who are veterans, I sure hope you already know him. But Peter Broderick, he's the president of Paradigm Consulting, which helps filmmakers and media companies develop strategies to maximize distribution, audiences, and revenues. Hi, Peter. Thanks a lot for coming by.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me.
You know, a lot of things have changed in the filmmaking world, especially since the independent movement of the late 1990s, where a lot of us filmmakers thought we'd go out and make a movie, build buzz, and our futures would be set. What's happened?
Well, things have been changing, over the years. I think that the idea of getting rich as a filmmaker, I'm not sure that ever was a very real expectation or hope that could come true for most filmmakers. But I do think that a lot's happened in the last 10 years where in the late 90s, going to Sundance and hoping to make an overall deal where you gave all your rights to one company was the goal of many filmmakers. And these days, people realize that making an overall deal is not necessarily plan A. Maybe that's plan B. And plan A is splitting up the rights and working with different distributors and partners to get their movies into the world.
There's a lot of changes that have been taking place in video on demand, for example. Is that one of the rights that you would tell filmmakers to hold on to?
Well, I think they should basically retain overall distribution control of their movie, and then partner with different folks to get their film into the world. So, VOD is an important area that has real potential, just like DVD distribution, regular TV distribution, educational distribution, digital distribution. They're all important channels for people in addition to theatrical and semi-theatrical.
And is this what you would consider to be hybrid distribution, where you retain some of your rights and then give up some of the other rights and just try to figure out how to create revenue from each of the channels?
Yeah, the way I define hybrid distribution, I made the term up, a while back, is basically instead of the alternatives being, giving all your rights to one company or self-distribution, I came up with this term hybrid distribution, which means filmmakers make partnerships with distributors in different avenues of distribution, and they retain the right to sell directly from their websites and at screenings. So from their websites, they might be selling DVDs or streams or downloads. At screenings, they could be selling DVDs or even CDs of their soundtrack.
And then from that perspective, in this new paradigm, you would say that filmmakers would have to take over a large chunk of the marketing that used to be handled from outside companies.
Well, I think the difference is that these days, I think that the relationship of filmmakers to distributors should be seen as a kind of partnership, a win-win partnership. The old model was kind of like a master-slave relationship where the filmmakers, once they made the deal, didn't have any control. And if the distributor would take their phone calls, in some cases they were doing well, but all the key decisions were made by the distributor. These days, I think the model is a partnership model, and you are working with your distributors. In terms of the marketing, it varies a great deal. If you're doing a service deal for theatrical, where essentially you're working with a booker or a service deal company to put your movie in movie theaters, then you're responsible for covering the cost of any advertising that you would do. I think filmmakers have figured out ways to do it more cost effectively than the old model, which was, just buy lots of newspaper ads, which I don't think necessarily are that effective anymore. But they can, filmmakers today can use the internet to spread the word, which can be very cost effective if it's targeted at specific core audiences. And I think that that's the way that filmmakers should be thinking, to try to reach a general audience I mean, that's something that Hollywood can do because they can buy an audience for the first weekend. But I think independents should really be doing much more targeted marketing, and in that can be much more cost effective. In other areas, TV, for example, if you make a TV sale, then the channel is going to do whatever marketing they would do, and that won't be any different whether it's part of an overall deal or not. Likewise with DVD distribution. So I think it's shared depending on the area.
And then in terms, of how does this affect our business planning as filmmakers? In the past, we'd plan really just to get the money together, but now it seems like we really have to start incorporating some sort of marketing from day one.
I think that's right. What I say to filmmakers is the morning you dream up your next movie in the shower, that's the point at which you need to start thinking about audience. And not just thinking about audience, but actually doing things to start reaching that audience. So that could be creating some kind of preliminary video or trailer. Maybe somebody does a crowdfunding effort early through either Kickstarter or Indiegogo. They would have a website and a Facebook page, and they would start letting people know about the film, building their mailing list and their network around the movie while they're in pre-production, production, post-production, not wait until the movie's done.
Do you think this sort of thing is going to lead filmmakers to make smaller movies, or do you think we can still sustain a budget where we can pay everybody their day rates?
Well, I think it's going to vary a lot. The question, I think, for each project is what's the lowest budget that the movie can be made well for, and not what's the lowest budget it can be made for, or how much money would I like to make the movie, but what really makes sense. Now, there's some productions which are really guerrilla productions where nobody's getting paid. There are other productions where everybody's getting paid something, not necessarily a huge amount, but something. And then there's kind of a third category where people are paid better. But I think that it really has to be seen in the context of a distribution strategy. If you make a film for $2 million, an independent feature, say a first feature that has no cast and crew that people are really aware of, to get $2 million back through a conventional distribution deal or even through a hybrid distribution approach is very, very tough. And so I think people should be, looking at budgets in relationship to what they think, they can kind of reasonably expect in terms of distribution. So let's say it's going to cost $2 million to make the movie. That's what, paying people and whatever it will cost. And you just don't see in this climate, where you get that $2 million back, then I think that's probably not a movie to make right now. So I think you need to be clear as to what's possible down the road. If you make a film and all the investors lose money, then it's going to be a lot harder to find the money for your next film. Whereas if you make a film for in a very cost-effective way, and some films can be made for lower budgets than others. So if you're making a historical epic with sword fighting and knights, that's going to be more expensive than it's two people, in a couple locations, in a contemporary story. So I think people need to choose projects in relationship to not only, possibilities of distribution and core audiences, but in terms of looking at the costs, really in a clear way.
Moving forward, where do you see everything going? Do you think everything's going to head towards a video on demand platform?
Well, I think it depends on how you define VOD. And there's many definitions out there, as you know. If we're talking about VOD through your cable or satellite, provider, there's a lot of limitations that are built into that situation right now. There's lots of titles. It's very hard to search if you don't have a title that begins with A, B, C, or D, or a number. You have a problem because people may not have the patience to scroll down further, and there's not a great. It's not a great place for documentaries right now, and I don't know. So there's various limitations. A number of films that I've consulted on have done quite well with VOD, but then I think people need to be kind of realistic. If you're talking about VOD to mean distribution through the internet, which someone could actually get on their TV, not just on their computer, and as we have more DVD players and more TVs that are going to have full internet connections, then I think it's there's many more interesting possibilities, because you could be on iTunes and you could be on Hulu and you can be on Amazon, but the filmmakers could also make the movie available for download and streaming directly from their own websites. And at some point, if we move into a situation where the internet is fully available to people in their living rooms and in their bedrooms on their television, then I think that's going to be really a great development for independent filmmakers. But of course, the challenge will remain in terms of marketing, and then the question is how people can build some awareness for a title ahead of time. And I think if they're effective doing that, so that when somebody has a chance to watch it through VOD, then it's meaningful that it's available. But if nobody's heard of the movie, nobody knows what the movie is, even if it is available through VOD, it isn't necessarily going to be meaningful in terms of revenue.
Yeah, so that just takes us back to the idea that we really have to market this thing and find an audience from day one.
Yes, and I think that people need to be very clear about that. And the old definitions of audience, which were demographic definitions, females between 15 and 24. I think those definitions are pretty meaningless these days. And when people are thinking about core audiences, they should be thinking about the way people are organized online, because almost any community you can think of has websites and mailing lists and Facebook pages and Twitter feeds. And so break the audience into micro audiences, and the really exciting thing in terms of the developments, as you were asking about since 1999, are the way that filmmakers can now reach audience members directly, and they don't have to go through gatekeepers and middlemen. So if you can reach out to that audience and start building awareness, when it becomes available, your film becomes available on VOD, then you can capitalize on that.
Yeah, the reason I brought up 1999, that was a year that I saved up an entire summer to buy an Arri BL camera, so I always use it as sort of the starting point to how things have changed. Non-discriminatory distribution that you're talking about without the gatekeeper, from my perspective, is one of the most exciting developments.
I agree, and I think that you'll see, Jason, that this will be true globally, not just nationally. And so if you can, make your film available online, it doesn't matter if the person, the potential viewer, lives in a country where there is a distribution deal, say France, or Argentina, where there is no distribution deal. That both those folks would have access to the movie. The challenge then becomes how you market, nationally and how you market internationally. But that's the frontier that people really need to be exploring, because if you've got a film that you think is going to have international appeal, then there should be ways online to start building that awareness that aren't hugely expensive or may even be free.
Well, that, and you can begin to sort of project things in terms of your projected sales. How big is your target audience? Now we're talking about an entire global footprint.
Right. And so let's just say, for example, you made a film. I'll just make up a subject that had to do with motorcycle racing. And you know that in, many, many countries around the world, there's motorcycle racing fans in those countries. So even if you only, got a couple hundred in France and, a couple hundred in England and 50 in Argentina, once you start adding those numbers up, they can get to critical mass pretty quickly.
Let me ask you something. If there's quite a few filmmakers listening to this, and if we want to learn more about, some of these amazing things that are happening, where can we go? Do you have some upcoming gigs, workshops?
Well, there's two events that I've been organizing that I'm really excited about. The first one is going to be November 13th. It's a Saturday in New York City at NYU. It's called Distribution U. And then we're also doing a West Coast version a week later, November 20th at UCLA. And we did Distribution U last year for the first time at USC, and it was amazing. It's a panel-free event. We don't allow any panels because I don't think panels are the best way to, help people learn about these areas. We have not only great resource people that are going to be there, to work with participants, but the participants, have been really knowledgeable and a great part of the whole process. So it's much more interactive. There's lots of breaks for networking. Our goal is for people to meet other people that they can share resources and expertise with, during the day, and maybe be planning to work together by the end of the day. Last year when we did it at USC, we started at 9 in the morning. Energy level was really high in the room. We had 200 people there. And the energy level was higher by the time we finished at 5:30 in the afternoon. So that was a sign that something was working. So if people are interested in either of those events, they can come to my website, which is www.peterbroderick.com. That's Peter for Peter, and then Broderick is BRODERICK.com. And if people want to sign up with a teammate or two teammates, there's great discounts for 2 people or 3 people who sign up at the same time. The other thing that they could do, well, there's 2 other things. They could visit my website. There's a lot of articles and issues of the distribution bulletin there that they can read on different areas. And also, if they'd like to sign up to receive my distribution bulletin, which is free, every 3 or 4 months when something good happens in distribution, I send out a bulletin. They're welcome to do that as well.
Well, great. I want to thank you for stopping by. This has been a really informative chat.
Well, thank you, Jason, and I wish you luck with your website and your filmmaking and your VOD strategies. And I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.